Boom. Covers halftime live. First one of the season. Buffalo Bills, Los Angeles Rams. It is great to have everybody back for another season of halftime shows as we get into the NFL season. Great to see a lot of familiar names in the chat already. This is going to be a fun season. It's still early. Pacing myself. It was exciting to start in that first half. Could have been a lot better, but a bit of a downer situation as we saw turnovers stall out drives. We saw playmaking decisions cause a lot of drives to stall out too. Lots of yardage, not very much output, but I think it's going to shape up for a very interesting second half. We'll get to the bet that I'm eyeing up in just a second as we start to see some of these lines come out. But let's talk about what we saw in the first half. And I think first and foremost, we're seeing a little bit of a different Buffalo Bills offense as they navigate into the Rams, really sitting in a lot of too deep safety looks. And what that has led to is a lot of what we heard in the offseason from Sean McDermott. And it was an interesting take that we heard building up as McDermott was saying that he didn't want to run Josh Allen as much. And so he was saying they're trying to evolve as an offense on and off the field schematically. We're going to manage how often we run Josh Allen, and we want to make sure we're doing the right thing. And so we heard that as bettors and as football fans, and it was weird to us because last season, Josh Allen, the most efficient play the Bills ran was a Josh Allen run, 6.4 attempts per game. They had a 63% success rate. So when you're used to watching these Bills games, it's these Josh Allen runs that were making this offense so successful. Tonight, 7 different receivers have caught a pass, and Josh Allen has not had one designed run the entire first half. He had the scramble, but there was not one designed run for Josh Allen, which is interesting because when you're watching the game, the Rams defense sitting way back, they're forcing everything underneath. It seems like there's opportunity for Josh Allen to potentially get involved running the ball in the second half, especially after we see the turnover now to end the first half. I think that could potentially change the philosophy on offense and maybe Allen a little bit more involved with his legs in the second half. I think as over bettors here in the channel, I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat, we're all kind of a bit angry at how Sean McVay is handling it. But what's interesting about this second half handicap is McVay's essentially 3 different coaches. So we saw what he is in the first half. 8 of 9 first downs outside of the 2-minute warning, those were running plays. 89% run on first down. He's just banging his head into a brick wall. And those rounds on first down go for 37 yards. So this is exceptionally higher than his 2021 season average, which was 51%. But here's what you have to remember as a bettor. When you go into the second half of games, you get very different coaches and very different philosophies. And Sean McVay is as extreme as any coach in the second half when it comes to his pass run rate compared to what it is on average. So in the second half of games, 1-score games, 62% pass. That's among the highest in the league, 6th highest. But if he's trailing, his pass rate spikes. You see those first down runs, they go away when it's 7 or more deficit in the second half. When he's leading, there's a whole bunch of first down runs, second down runs. What we saw in the first half is just going to become more and more common. And so now as we see this game 10-10, this is really important to think about as we start to see what goes on in the second half, as is the pace for McVay. So in the second half of games last season, the pace differential for Sean McVay was drastic. If he was trailing by a touchdown or more, he was the fastest coach snap to snap, 21 seconds. The Rams fly up and down the field. If it's a tight game in the second half, ramps up the pace very quickly. But if he's leading, he completely takes the air out of the game. 32 seconds snap to snap, one of the slowest. And so what we have here is the Bills at 6 yards of play in the first half. They're spreading everything out. They're getting several receivers involved, 7 receivers. They still haven't gone to their most effective play a year ago, which was those Josh Allen runs. And then you have a Rams team that's essentially the governor on how fast this game is going to go. In the first half, they were incredibly inefficient, 3.4 yards per play, but the play calling from McVay was horrible and just sort of kept this Rams team at ease. And so as we get into the bet and we pull up the odds that we may be looking at if we have a sports book behind the scenes, but what I'm really intrigued with seeing is the second half total is at 45.5. But when we get into the team total specifically, we're looking at the Buffalo Bills team total at 23.5 which will be an adjusted 13.5 points for the team total in the second half, and they'll be maybe listed as the away team. I think that becomes a very interesting bet because the Rams get the ball to start first, and there's a chance that this sort of works both ways for this team total for the Bills in the second half. The first is that the LA Rams go down very quickly. They get into the end zone. Then that's going to force Buffalo to play a little bit quicker than they already are. But I think it also encourages Buffalo to go a little bit deeper into the playbook and get Josh Allen involved a little bit more, despite that not what they wanted to do in the first half. Now we see that situation change. On the other hand, I've got no problem backing this Bills offense again in the second half because it was 6 yards per play, and the only thing stopping them from getting in the end zone was that Isaiah McKenzie turnover, which was extremely unfortunate, then a really bad Josh Allen throw. So if we see things settle down in the second half, I think both ways what happens on this first Rams drive is going to benefit the Bills for the team total. So I'll go over 13.5 at minus 118 for the team total, or a full number here, 23.5, depending how your sportsbook lists it. Because I think we're going to see the Bills continue to move the football. And if they're leading, what really slowed things down in the first half was that Rams offense, especially on the first down. I just think the Bills now could get the benefit if they go ahead because the Rams are going to have to speed up, and that's really going to benefit the Buffalo offense overall. So Bills team total over 13.5. Watch to see if McDermott reverts and we see Ken Dorsey pull out a couple more Josh Allen runs on key downs to keep those drives going. And then pay attention to that play calling shift from McVay, depending on what the score line is in the second half. It's going to make a really big difference. So the bet again, Buffalo team total over 13.5. Appreciate everybody for stopping by this halftime live. We'll be back with you Sunday Night Football. See you then.